Anschluss unter dieser Nummer.
Day 1. I honestly have no idea what's going on right now. I've called the police, told my friends, but nobody seems to be taking it seriously. So hopefully someone here will be able to help me, or at least hear me out. As a warning, this will be kind of long. I just don't want to leave anything out. Where I live, we have a public transportation system known as the MAX. It's like the subway, but it's just above ground. Since I'm without a license and money to afford a driver, I ride it nearly daily to get to my job, school and house. Usually it's not too crowded outside of the 4 to 9 o'clock time frame, but the day that this all takes place happens to be the 4th of July, so of course it's extremely crowded. Towards the front and back of the MAX, there are seats similar to a school bus, facing forward, backward, depending on what side you're on. And they come in pairs. I was lucky enough to snag an empty row, sitting in the window seat. At the next stop, a man sat beside me. Now I've made a point to not look at people when they sit next to me. I know it makes me uncomfortable when I sit down and someone looks over, but today I felt compelled. Sitting beside me, wearing what looked like a leather vest over a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans, was a man in a mask. The mask was shaped like a deer's face, just black and poorly stitched together. It looked like his ear was missing. He was looking forward, but I quickly looked away, doing my best not to be rude. He smelled like garbage. Just 2 stops before mine, he got up and left, to my relief. His stink just seemed to get worse the longer he sat beside me, and the other passengers seemed to be noticing it too. I looked to make sure he'd actually got off before I noticed the cell phone sitting in the seat beside me. We were already taking off by the time I picked it up, so there was no chasing after him now. I figured I could hang on to it and call someone in their contacts, see if there was somewhere I could meet them to give it back. I waited to make the phone call until I got off the MAX, so that it would be a little quieter than a train packed with very loud and excited people. The phone was an iPhone, but it was not well taken care of. The front screen had a huge crack in it that covered the whole screen. Luckily, it wasn't password protected, so I was able to get right in. Though, lucky might not be the best word to use for being able to access this person's information. The unlock screen was completely black, but the background itself was grotesque. It was a high-definition picture of a person who had the whole left side of their face ripped off, with muscle and white bones showing through. The eye was barely stuck in the eye socket, and they were missing their ear. The left side of their face was heavily bruised, and it looked like there were handprints around the person's neck. I gagged, but once the shock wore off, I quickly clicked on the contacts icon. I was hoping to see something like Mum, Dad, Aunt Mary, something where their relation was clear. Instead, the only contacts in this phone were numbers. 001, 002, 003, 004, all the way up to 053. I hesitated. None of these were names, and none of the numbers had any form of identification linked to them. I assumed 001 would probably be the best one to call, since they were the first number entered. That might have meant they were important to the owner of the phone. I clicked call and waited. It rang about 6 or 7 times, and I was about to hang up since it didn't seem like anyone was going to answer, when I finally heard a voice on the other end. What? Sorry? I didn't hear you, was the first thing I was able to blurt out, quickly returning the phone to my ear.
Welcome to the game.
The voice sounded like a child's, or maybe an old woman's, but it was enough to kind of creep me out, though I don't know what I was expecting. Sorry, this isn't my phone. I was hoping to figure out whose it was so I could return it to them.
Keep it.
What? There was silence. I checked the phone after a while of waiting. They had hung up. A loud ping signalled a text. The sender, 001. I felt hesitant about opening text, but curiosity got the best of me, and I opened it.
To Alex. It's your turn to play the game. You have 3 days until the game begins. The rules are as follows. 1. Do not talk about this game. This is a very private game. We have ears all over and we'll hear if you do tell. Number 2. survive for 6 days, then pass the game on. If you don't pass the game on, you are offering to continue playing it.
And that was it. I held onto the phone, not sure what else to do with it. I showed it to one of my roommates, who told me it must have been some kind of prank, that lots of people make elaborate hoaxes like this. I agreed, let it slide until yesterday afternoon. Standing outside my house was a person wearing a mask identical to the one the guy had been wearing on the Macs. I was freaked out, but decided not to do anything about it. I mean, they weren't on my property, and they weren't doing anything to me, so I didn't have a case if I was going to call the cops. Within a few minutes, they walked off and didn't return for the rest of the night anyway. That was the third day. At midnight, I received a text message.
The game has started.
I looked out my window to see multiple masked people outside my house. They stood there for a while, then turned to one another before walking off. I watched them until they had all gone out of my available field of vision, then moved to go back to the computer room. In the side window were two of them staring in. I ran to my phone and called the cops, and they arrived a short while after. They said there were no signs of people being around, and to call them again if anything else happened. They'd keep my previous call on record. Hours passed and nothing happened till 8 o'clock. I was on my computer when I heard her talking and walking around in the back garden. I ran back there wondering if it was one of these masked people again, but the only thing back there was a small cardboard box on my porch. I opened the back door and hastily picked up the box. I locked the door behind me when I headed into the living room, opening the box and spreading out its contents. There were Polaroid pictures, though the content was horrific. Pictures of badly injured people were scattered out in front of me. A few of the people appeared to be dead. On the back of each photo was a number. The last number was 54. The picture it was wrote on was one of me, sitting on the Macs in the seat beside me. At the bottom of the box was a note.
Do you have the will to pull through? Others have not, but we think you hold the special little thing that will help you win. We hope that you will make it through the challenges ahead. Just make sure to cut out your fear and believe in the talents you hold. Out of all the people we have chosen, we think that you will be the first to complete our game. If you don't, we will have to eat our words, so we hope you won't make fools of us. We wish you the best.
The paper was neatly folded and thick, but let off a terrible smell. Random words were wrote lightly and in cursive, whereas the rest seemed to be in scratchy, thick lettering. I've locked all the doors and windows, but from around the house I can hear running in the gravel and knocking on the walls. I think the game started. Update. They've mostly been walking around my house, but just a minute ago I thought I heard my bedroom window open. I went to check it out. It was open, but I didn't see anyone. I called one of my roommates and they said they'll be home soon, so hopefully I won't have to stay alone in this. Day 2. I'm sorry for any spelling errors. I only have my mobile right now. Last night was day 1 of this game I got roped into. Thankfully it wasn't too bad. Definitely not as bad as the pictures made it seem like it was going to be. My roommate got home around 4 in the morning and said he didn't see any signs of people outside. Having another person in the house really has helped me calm my nerve, but I didn't let myself get too relaxed. Once Tom, I think I should use my roommate's name so I don't have to label my roommates roommate 1, roommate 2, so on. Once Tom had gone into his room and hit the sack, I decided to go scavenge through the house. As suggested by others, I decided to set up my house for protection. I didn't have a baseball bat, gun or sword in the house, but we did have wasp spray and nails, which I laid pointy side up in front of the doors. Under the windows I laid out cookie sheets with soap in them, since I didn't have marbles to go under rugs or skateboards. In fact, as I was searching around, I realised I really don't have good booby trapping materials anywhere, which I made a note to correct the following day. I slept, or attempted to sleep, out on the couch in our living room where I could keep an eye on the front and back door. That, and since I had heard the window in my room open, I was wary about going in there / sleeping in there. Every time I was about to fall asleep, there was a loud banging on my windows, which would always startle me awake, just in time to see a masked person run off. Eventually, I gave up and decided to just read until morning came. As soon as the sun rose and Tom was up, I called the cops. Since he's the only one who's around right now, I wanted to make sure I worked around his sleep schedule, so I didn't wake him up. The cops showed up 2 hours after I called. I showed them the box of photographs. Told them the messages I had been receiving. However, I told them it was over the internet, afraid of what might happen if I passed on the cell phone before it was time. They took the box of photos with them and told me they would keep a patrol going on throughout the day. I thanked them, saw them off. After that, I went to the store, stocked up on marbles, got a baseball bat, grease, another bottle of wasp spray, a lighter, a rope. It seemed like good things to get to booby trap a house, and some of it had been suggested by you lot, so thank you. So I figured that would be good enough for the night. When I finally got home, I was exhausted. I know a lot of you folks can probably stay up for days on it, but not me. Keep me up longer than 18 hours. Chances are I'm not going to be doing so hot. So I needed sleep. I asked Tom to keep watch as I took a quick nap, since I was sure if I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. He didn't seem to take me seriously, but he agreed, which was all I really needed of him. Preparing my bed out on the couch, I laid down to take a snooze. I got only an hour of sleep before I heard a heavy thud, which jolted me out of my nap. I looked around, grabbing my cell phone up. It was only 3:30 in the afternoon. I was still pretty tired, so my first thought was to just go back to sleep. I laid back down, closing my eyes, only to be started by another thud minutes later, which was followed by dragging. I sat still, holding my breath, listening to the sounds coming from the back room. I heard the back window open. Looking over, I saw the bag of supplies sitting in the nearby easy chair, the baseball bat leaning against it. Without a second thought, I moved to get up, just to feel my head get grabbed by gloved hands. I whipped my head back, only to be greeted by the black leather deer mask, eyes bulging from behind holes in it. They had been ducked down behind me, in between the side table and the couch's armrest. I ducked down, tried to yank myself away, desperately trying to reach the bat, though at that time all I grabbed was my cell phone. As I pulled myself off the chair, they wrapped their arms around my torso, pulling me back. I fell to the ground, knocking the back of my head on the coffee table. Stars blotted my vision, and there was a ringing in my ears, but I did my best to shake it off, grabbing the couch and launching myself forward, only to land face first on the wooden floors. It grabbed my ankle. I felt a searing pain run through me as something hot pressed into my leg, burning it. I screamed. Tears welled up in my eyes as I reached out, grabbing the baseball bat, turning around to catch them in the side of their head. I must have got them good, because I knocked them off of me, their stamp-shaped lighter falling to their side. I jumped up, barely able to stand the injured leg before I swung again, catching him on the side of the head again. His mask hung off only on one side of his head, allowing me to see the swollen pink face beneath it. I didn't take too much time to see anything else, hitting him once more across his face before I ran to the bag, grabbing it up and heading to the back. I fumbled the bag as I ran, tripping over my own feet and hitting the floor hard. When I got up, I noticed the two people behind me following along. One of them had a knife. "Tom!" I screamed out to him, turning to look at his room. The door was open. I could see there'd been a struggle inside, but nobody was in the room. Panic settled in my stomach as I threw open the dining room's window, jumping out of it. I'd never been so thankful that our house was so low to the ground. I took off running, quickly realising I had left my keys in the house. No time to turn back. I just kept running, only stopping when I got 3 neighbourhoods away. I gasped for air, looking around me. Fuck. I didn't have my wallet, my laptop, anything. Only my phone, a baseball bat, and the bag of supplies I'd bought that day. I looked inside the bag. Everything was there, but something extra. The phone I had found. I pulled it out to see that I had one text message waiting.
Running is an excellent way to make sure they won't catch you. Maybe this tactic will save you. But can you run forever? We sincerely hope you know what you are doing. We have all spoken so highly of you to the others who follow our game. You are very impressive. But will you be able to keep it up? Or will you suffer the punishments that come for losers? Don't disappoint us.
I looked around myself, making sure I didn't see anyone with masks before I tried to think over what to do. Eventually, I decided to call my mum and ask her to stay at her place for the night. She came, got me, and set me up in the downstairs guest room. She and her boyfriend usually get to bed around 8 PM, since they get up at 4 in the morning, so I have a good amount of alone time before I head to bed. When I had lived with them, I remember loving the alone time, but now, not so much. It didn't start up until about an hour ago. I heard the front door creak open and shut quietly a few seconds later. Their footsteps. Turning off the only light downstairs, I listened to the pace around the upstairs. They walked around the dining room, then the kitchen, then in the living room. Then I heard loud bangs from the stairs, like something heavy was hitting every step. Something had fallen down them. I held my breath, waiting for any other sounds. The walking made its way to the back door, which I heard slide open, then slide close. I sat in the dark for a few more seconds before I hurried to the door that closed off the downstairs from the upstairs, ripping it open. Sitting crooked in front of the door was a metal box, barely visible in the light coming from upstairs. My mum always keeps the kitchen light on since it's usually still dark out when she gets up. I picked it up, pulling off the lock that held the top and bottom together. It hadn't been locked. In it was a hand and a badge, a police badge. Oh, I felt the contents of my stomach rush up, threatening to spew out. With the hand and badge was a note. I pulled the note out, unfolding it.
We know.
It was written in all caps, in a dark black ink. With how thick it was, I assumed it had been written with a marker. I didn't have much time to react to the note before I saw someone dart out onto the first step. They were tall, but wore a mask, unlike the deer ones. It was long, looking like a bird of some kind. I audibly gasped, jumping back and slamming the door as they ran down after me. I heard them bang violently on the door, which I had locked. As I rushed into the back guest room, I could hear someone at the door leading out to the garden. I threw myself into the closet and sat, quiet, the box in my hands. I felt my heart pounding. Before I realised I had left my phone out on the bed. It wasn't too far away, but the silence left me worried about where the two people I'd heard could be. Pulling the closet open a crack, all I could see was darkness. Crouched down, I ran to the bed, grabbing up my phone and running back into the closet. I've been here in the closet a good hour now, and nothing's happened, so I decided I should just post an update just in case I lose this game. I haven't heard anything, and somehow that is more worrying to me than hearing them walk around. Earlier today I got some pictures of the phone and the note, but the cops took the box and the photos. Not that I'd want to post pictures that grotesque anyway. I'll update when anything happens. Hopefully, I won't have to spend the night in here. Update 1. I can hear furniture moving around downstairs. Think they might be closing off the back door. Update 2. I tried calling my mum's phone. I heard the ringing coming from the other room, but her room is upstairs. I don't know if she's down there or if it's one of the people. Also, after contemplating it for a while, I just called the police, but they've yet to show up. Update 3. I made a break for it an hour ago, bag and everything. The door to the bedroom was blocked by something, so my only option was to go through the window. I opened the door, looking left and right before I pulled myself out. With it being midnight at the time, it was dark out, the street lights a few houses down not illuminating our home. I ran to the front of the house and back in, taking a moment to listen for anyone before running back to my mum's room. She was there, sound asleep, her boyfriend next to her, thank God. They must have grabbed herself and the charger out in the kitchen. I shook her awake and told her someone had broken in and we had to go. Luckily, she didn't ask too many questions, so we were out of the house in no time. As we drove to a hotel, I saw that there was a light on downstairs, but I turned them all off once I started hearing noises. I'm not sure if they were still in there or not, but I'm at a hotel now. My mum called the police to check the house out. They never arrived after I called them. Update 4. Just letting everyone know I'm going to sleep, so if I don't reply, I'm not dead, just dead tired. The terrible typing and puns come from my lack of sleep since the game started. I apologise. Day 3. Most of today was spent sleeping. I didn't even wake up until it had to be past or around noon. I can't remember the last time I slept that hard. I woke up to strange sounds, none that matched the yellow-walled, flowery hotel room I'd been in the night before. I went to roll over, only to feel something prickly against my arm and hear a crunch beneath me. It took a lot of effort to open my eyes and look around, but when I did, well, I was shocked. I was outside, in the woods, somewhere. I quickly sat up, brushing the dirt and pine needles off my arms and back. With so much sleep, I was a little discombobulated, but did my best to get to my feet, taking in the area around me. There wasn't too much I could grab at to guess my location. Trees, shrubbery, small plants. Nothing I generally spent my day-to-day in. Hello! I shouted into the forest, hoping I might be closer to civilization than I thought, and that maybe someone would help me. Hey! The voice was so casual and upbeat, like meeting up with a friend. It came from above me. I looked up just in time to see someone jump down from the trees. I darted out of the way before they could land on me. Tumbling over some vines and branches, I ate dirt, literally. I had to spit some out and cut open my lower lip from falling on a branch. I flipped myself around to see this madman leaping towards me, what looked like a hunting knife in their hand. I threw myself back as the guy threw his body weight at me, diving down with the knife, catching me in the side. I screamed, not because of the pain, since I hadn't felt that yet, but because of the shock that this guy was coming at me with an actual fucking knife trying to stab me for actual reals. Reaching behind me, I found a vine that seemed pretty sturdy, wrapped around a tree, pulling myself up with it. It snapped, but it lasted long enough for me to get on my feet and start running. I am not a runner. This person caught up with me in no time. I wasn't going to outrun him. So I ran in a zigzag. I remember hearing that running zigzag can make it hard for someone to catch you, so although I couldn't remember where I heard it, but it sure as shit was working for me now, so I heard him yelling out something, but I can't remember what he was saying, or if it was even to me. I wasn't about to ask him to repeat himself. After a few minutes of running, we neared a hilly cliff, which, without even thinking of it, I threw myself down, tumbling down thorn, foliage, brush, bushes, ferns. I couldn't hear him behind me, but I couldn't hear much of anything over the sound of rustling plants and my own grunts. When I reached the end, I could barely stand up. My whole body ached. This was no time to be afraid about it. So I pulled myself up. Looking around, the world was spinning, but it seemed like the coast was clear. I lifted my body and limped around through the woods, aimlessly wandering. I didn't notice any more people while looking for an exit, but did encounter traps. Bear traps, that is, hidden beneath the brush that I nearly stepped on a good 3 or 4 times. I don't know how I managed to avoid them with how dizzy I was from the pain. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I have an impressively low pain tolerance. After what must have been hours of limping around, I found a road. One I knew pretty well. I passed this way a lot to get to my friend's house. I ran as well as I could to the forest edge, but freedom wasn't so sweet. Sitting on the pavement in front of me was the phone. Beside it, my own phone and my wallet. I froze, standing there dumbfounded for a good minute before quickly looking around myself. It didn't seem like anyone was around me, aside from the cars that passed right on by. Cautiously, I bent down, picking up the 2 phones and the wallet. I checked the cracked phone, and I wasn't surprised to see a text message waiting for me.
We congratulate you on making it to day 3. Can you make it through the rest of the day, I wonder? Find your way back into the city. You should get cleaned up before we come to you later. Always yours, X.
Shouted obscenities, ready to throw the phone into the road, but instead, I just tucked it into my front left pocket. My own phone in the right, wallet in the back. At least I had my money now, though I assume that's what they wanted. Hobbling to the bus stop, I waited, catching the one that headed back into the city. I had signal, so I messed around on my phone, waiting to get off when I got this private message. Subject 054P from 001M, sent 1 hour ago.
You should be preparing for tonight, not playing.
Now, I wasn't sure if this was just someone messing with me, or if it was actually 001, but it definitely freaked me out. For the first time I decided to check the other phone. I'd been telling myself to call the other numbers, and since I was nearing my stop I decided I could try and call them once I got off. Until then I went to look through the apps. I don't know why I hadn't done it before. I mean, there weren't any text messages other than the ones I had got, and the phone calls, incoming and outgoing, had been cleared out. There were photos, about 80 or so of them, all of people who are dead. There were people with masks holding bodies up by their hair, taking pictures of themselves. Others were pictures of masked people laying on the ground surrounded by blood. I felt nauseous looking at some of them. Limbs missing, chunks taken out. Pictures of the people in masks eating people. Clicked out quickly, looking through the rest of the apps. There wasn't anything else on there aside from phone numbers. I hurried off the bus, noting that people were staring at me. I can understand their confusion. Someone covered in dirt and cuts with a burn on the back of their leg practically runs off the bus, then just stands there. But I wasn't too concerned with the people around me. I called 053. The phone rang on and on, so I finally got the voicemail.
You've reached Megan. Please leave a message after the tone.
I left a message explaining my situation, saying that their number was in the phone, that I needed their help, before it cut me off. I tried 052, 051, all the way back to 002, before someone finally answered.
Hello?
The voice was deep, speaking quietly. Hi, I need your help. They stayed quiet for a long time before finally answering, giving me a very pointed,
Fuck off. Don't call here again.
I stopped, contemplating it before calling back.
Don't call this number.
They sounded pissed. I'm not asking you to do anything, I just need advice, please. They stayed quiet before finally agreeing.
Stay in one place. Find the basement. Stock up and stay down there. Don't leave the phone anywhere.
Why? I responded a little too quickly, but I'm sure you can understand my urgency.
If you lose it, you just keep playing. You just keep playing the game until your days are up, and you give the phone back.
Is that what you did? Did you win?
No.
He hung up. I stood there before hobbling off to the nearest motel, booking a night. Unfortunately, they didn't have a basement. I wasn't sure where I was going to find a place where I could stay in one. I decided to look it up when I could. For the last hour, I went to the store and bought some things that I will leave undisclosed, as you guys have asked me to, and cleaned / bandaged up. I haven't received any text messages or anything else yet, but most of the things have happened at night. I tried calling Richard and my mum, but I didn't get any replies from either of them. I set up my room, and now I just have to wait for them to make the first move. Update. Since I posted this, I've set everything up that I think is necessary. Like many of you said, I'll keep what I'm doing quiet.
So that's all I will say about that. I also called 002 again. The first 4 tries I didn't answer, but eventually I got a hold of them.
Stop calling.
They sounded exhausted, keeping their voice quiet. I just want to know what you meant. You said you didn't win.
Because I didn't.
He cut me off, getting snappy. But if you don't win, you die.
Most of the time.
I waited for him to continue, but after a while of silence, I realised he was leaving it at that. Can you elaborate? I did my best to not sound pushy, despite how I felt. I was just asking for a simple answer.
You'll see. Don't call here again.
Again, he hung up on me. Immediately I went to call him again, but every time I did, it went straight to voicemail. I have given up for the time being. I sat around for a while waiting. Once it hit 8:30, I assumed that either nothing else was going to happen today, or it was only going to get worse. I went to the bathroom, for reasons most people use the bathroom. It was while I was in there that I heard a loud clashing of chimes coming from one of the windows. One of the things I had done was set up wind chimes in front of all the entrances, so I'd hear if anyone comes in or out. Finishing up, I slowly opened the door, looking out. There was no one there, but on the ground was a black object. Waiting for a few seconds just to make sure I didn't hear anything or see anyone, I walked out, picking up the thing on the floor. It was a wallet. I opened up, being greeted by a familiar face. It's Tom's wallet. Update 2. On day 4 now. I will update when I can. I ditched the phone, not my best idea. But for those suggesting a gun, remember, I'm not going to say what I'm buying to use against them. So if I got one, I wouldn't say it. Gotta get moving on. We'll update soon. Day 4/5. I'm going to do my best to keep this short, but bear with me. On day 3, not much happened, aside from my rude awakening. There was a banging on my door for most of the night, but I'm assuming that was to make sure I'd be dead tired for day 4, which I definitely was. Many of you have suggested that I get a gun. Many of you have also suggested that I don't tell you the things I get, so I didn't feel it was in my best interest to be like, yes, I did get a gun, to reply, just in case, like others have suggested they see what I'm posting. But now they know I have a gun, so I guess there's no harm in sharing. The morning of day 4 was long, or at least it felt long. I gathered up my things and opened the door. Standing out front, leaning against the railing, was a man, shouting down to 2 other people in masks on the ground level. I was able to step back into my room and shut the door before he'd completely turned around to see me. I grabbed my gun out of the bag before slinging it over my shoulder, opening the door. Shooting a person isn't as scary as I thought it would be. Let me be clear, I'm not a good shot, but when a person is that close, it's easy to get them right in the face. Fortunately, there was quite a bit of splatter. I almost fell backwards. I haven't used a gun since I was young. I can't remember the age, but all I did with it was shoot pop cans, so... After recovering from the noise, I closed the door behind me, stepping over the body, with 2 people from downstairs running up towards me. I tried to shoot at them, but my aim is already shitty with a still target, so I shot more air than anything. I decided to run at them. I charged, barely managing to get one to fall back down the stairs. The other one caught me with a knife I hadn't noticed they were carrying. Some sane fucking spot at the last time I was nicked. Stumbled down the stairs and somehow managed to bob and weave my way to the bottom, where the other guy was already getting up. He came at me, and I shot him in the stomach. Reaching into my back pocket, I tossed the cracked cell phone in their direction. "Take this fucking thing back!" I sneered, running off. I could hear them behind me, but when I ran into traffic, they decided it was best to wait at the edge of the street. I just kept running until I reached the Starbucks, where I stopped and waited. I left my own phone on the counter there and stuffed my jacket in a trash can. I wasn't going to be the madman running around downtown naked though, so I kept my clothes on. For hours, I kept walking the streets before finally I was at the highway. I followed it a short ways before stopping, exhausted from getting no sleep the night before. A truck pulled over to the side of the road. The man inside had orange hair and a short beard, and he asked if I was alright, if he could give me a lift somewhere. I had him drive me to the airport. When I got there, I bought a ticket to California on my debit card, significantly draining it, but I don't know how much money you'll think I'm made of. I'm not wealthy. I bought some touristy clothes to replace the ones I had on, tossing the ones I had been wearing in the trash. And then I left the airport. I caught a bus that drove me somewhere, best not to disclose that right now, which is where I set up my tent and stayed the night. Another thing I'd bought but chose not to mention. It was this morning when I heard someone whispering outside. I laid perfectly still, keeping my breathing to a minimum. They paced around before letting out a sound of exasperation and began to walk away. I stayed in my tent a few minutes after I heard them go before getting out. Sitting at the edge of my tent was my phone. Shakily picking it up, I clicked it on. A new message from 001. I'd never added their number into my phone.
This is a much nicer phone.
That's all it said. Checked through my phone and all my messages and pictures were gone. All my apps were gone. It was completely wiped. I looked to the contacts, all numbers, just like the last phone. I'm somewhere with Wi-Fi now, which is why I'm able to make an update. I have some plans on what I'm going to do today, so I'll try and update what I can. I'm not dead yet. Update. I know, update already. Just to clarify, the reason I haven't called the police is because I don't necessarily trust them at this point. I tried calling them multiple times in the first few days and never got any reply. I just don't trust them right now. I kept the gun, for those who are wondering. I'm not about to get rid of my only defense. It's funny how few people think to look for a gun on a person. The only place I had to ditch it, hide it, was the airport. Update 2. Still really tired, so it's going to be choppy. I bought some tin foil, wrapped the phone in it, hoping to keep out any trackers that might be in it. I also found a place to stay. I don't have the money for a hotel. Paying for the ticket to California was my attempt at a distraction. I would have never been able to go there and find a place to stay, pay for travel fees. I don't have enough money to pay for a hotel now. I just happened to find a place that got condemned by the state that I'm kind of squatting in for the time being. They have a basement, an actual basement, not the apartment style in my mum's house with little, with little funds left. I'm going to just do the best I can and stay put, setting up and trying to keep them at bay. I only have today, tomorrow left. As many of you have said, running around being prey is just going to get me killed. I'm not going to be prey to these whack jobs. The only problem about staying here is that my internet connection is weak. I'm stealing it from the neighbouring house, QT0045, who didn't lock their connection. And I keep hearing walking upstairs. I'm not sure if this is the people readying themselves for me to come out on day 6, or homeless people that might have been staying here too. Whoever they are, they talk really loud. I'm not sure what they're saying, but it sounds something like, "We have 1, we need 2, call in 2, and variations of that as the speaker gets angrier, trying to get the person who's listening, or maybe they're talking to themselves. Maybe the homeless do that sometimes. Once I'm done setting up, I'm going to try calling numbers again, starting with 002 and going up.
What constitutes a game? Games are mirrors of life. People do their best to make it through the day, avoiding the conflicts that are thrust upon them. They want to reach their goal. They want to reach the end of the board. This game is no different from life, yet why do people go against the game with such passion, such energy, when it is the same thing they go through every single day? There is no winning in life. People come, people go. Live and die, help and betray. How can you trust the man that sits beside you, the woman on the other end of the phone, the person that has walked a mile in your shoes? You do not know the game they are playing. The game is not bad. The game is good. The game shows you life as it is. It shows you how to help, how to heal. We tell you to live, so you will see what it means to live. what it means to die, and what it means to win. We live in this world struggling to stay alive, but that idea is wrong. As you live, you are constantly losing. Losing against your colleagues, losing against gravity, losing against time, losing against the spinning of the earth. There is no winning in life. Winning is in death, as it is in all games. In games, the goal is get to the end. We are all pieces on a board, moving towards the end of the game, doing our best to win. But they don't see it. People do not see it. They do not see how to win. They do not understand how to win. Do you see it now? Do you get it? We are not bad. We are here to help you. We want you to play. We want you to win. Just as 054 won the game. With all our love, 001, 002, and 003.